Kia ora whanau, and welcome to another episode of Get a Job and Get Healthy with Costas Enterprises. I am forever your host, Alex Costas, and today I just thought I'd cover off a couple of things. One is sort of talking a bit more about Redbubble stuff, obviously. That's what most of my content is these days. And then also looking at just generally doing a product review of one of my products that I've received, finally. And also talking a little bit about keto versus plant-based. That'll be the primary part of what I'm talking about. So first off, I was going to say thank you all for listening and continuing to listen. I am currently sitting at about 613 listens, which shocks me, given that it's been about 10 months. Yeah, about 10 months since I started this podcast, and for it to grow even further than sort of 200 listens for me is a shock. So thank you to all of you people that listen, the people that listen over and over, my ongoing listeners, the people that just want to hear certain parts of content. I thank you all. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. Feel free to contact me via my email, doncostas@gmail.com. That's doncostas@gmail.com, and that is N for Nike. Alternatively, you can hit me up at my website and find all my social medias and all those sorts of things there. costasenterprises.business.blog. So I'm going to start off with the Redbubble stuff. I was just looking at my stats for last month and currently for this month, given that we are only 18 days into this month. And last month I sort of reached about 101 unique visitors onto my Redbubble store. Now, as I've talked about previously in another episode, a lot of that was, over half of it was due to social media and me actually paying Facebook ads. And I do talk a little bit about my successes and all that sort of things. So that was like 57% of my actual viewership. And it did result in a little bit of sales, but not much, I'm going to be honest. So yeah, overall, that's social media was a big part. I've had other months where my organic is much more. This last month was 14. Redbubble themselves, I had 21, and direct was 9. Social media was 57. And when I sort of look at this month so far, I'm currently sitting at about 53, which again is surprising because I did not expect to see that many from social media. I have run a little campaign myself, but not paying any ads, basically creating my own Instagram ads using Canva, because you can actually create Instagram ads in Canva, and then just download them and, upload them to Instagram as you would. And they've got sort of like a template of how you do things. So I take some of my stock images, put them on, and then send them out as sort of like an Instagram story. So far, that has resulted in 19 referrals from social media. 7 have been organic, so that's like tags and stuff. 8 directly from Redbubble. And as for direct links, that's actually 18. So that's a lot more than I was expecting. Now, one of the things I did do just recently is I actually changed my link in Instagram. As you all know, you can't usually post links in Instagram unless they're in your bio, and there is a space for sort of a website. Well, my website used to be my costasenterprises.business.blog, and I thought I'd switch it up just recently, probably about 3 days ago, to actually reflect what other people do. And I actually put my Redbubble as my main website, and then in my bio I put both this podcast as well as my costasenterprises.business.blog. So yeah, and you know, whether or not that is the reason why those have gone up, I'm not sure, but hopefully, I think it's quite cool anyway. So yeah, I'm on track to sort of get closer and closer to the 100 views I had last month, and that would be really, really good because it would show how much traffic I'm sort of expecting per month. And given that January is usually not the busiest of months, most times it's usually from the research that I've done and also have heard about. It's sort of November, December, around Christmas time. That's when your busiest months are. And hindsight, now I know that I will be probably running a Facebook ad in November this year for Christmas themed things. And I know I could spend, you know, money on each month doing certain anniversaries and creating those trending shirts. My intention in the future is to create some new trending shirts that I can just leave on there all year round. Things like St. Paddy's Day, which is coming up, Valentine's I've already got, Christmas, of course, Halloween, all those sorts of things, and just create a few more and actually create collections of those and just keep adding to those collections every year as something goes on. Like, you know, of course, Corona has been a huge factor for some people and they've created a lot of designs around Corona. I've created a couple, or COVID, and yeah, I mean, they haven't sold, so that can't be a good reason, but it's definitely something for me to think about personally with my shop. As for product review, I finally got my magnet of Samurai Style, which I was really, really looking forward to. I got to admit, at first appearance, I'm not as impressed as I would have liked to have been. Whether or not that's because the design kind of... I know, this is going to sound stupid, but I know my Redbubble is a print on demand, and I expect it to be printed on the product. But when I see it, it literally looks like it's just been printed on a thing, and the quality is still pretty good. Like, I'm not going to lie, like the actual, the print itself is very clear. You can see it perfectly. It's got all the little nuances of the photo at the background and also the animation characters at the start. But I got to be honest, considering I paid for the large, which is the more expensive of magnets, I was expecting the magnet itself to be a bit more, just not necessarily embossed, but at the very least I expected it to be a little bit thicker than what we got, and for it to be more like a block mounted magnet, which that's my own assumption. Overall, I'm happy with it, but I'm not ecstatic. I'm not loving it as much as the t-shirts. I'm not loving it as much as the other print that I've got. Like it's very similar to the print when I first got the print of Cherry Blossoms and Love. I was like, wow, this is really cool to see a print, and I was expecting a print, and that's why. But with this, like, I was expecting a magnet. I wasn't expecting it to be as flimsy as it is. Now, that said, it is actually still quite a strong magnet because it is quite big. I mean, we're not talking, it's not going to lift anything. But, you know, when you look at it, at first glance, it's very flimsy. And it's literally been printed on that cheap sort of magnet type material. However, the one advantage of that is it will roll quite easily. So if you want it to go around a pole, not necessarily that it will stay there, but it'll at least stay there for a little bit. Yeah, I mean, overall, I like seeing my design on another product. I think if I was to get that design again, I would probably try to put it on a t-shirt. Like, that's what I originally envisioned for it, but I thought I'd try the magnet. Alternatively, that design could be better on maybe a skin, like a laptop skin or a phone skin. Probably a laptop skin, I think, or something with that sort of like maybe a tote bag or something like that. I just think on a magnet, it's not what I wanted it to be. And that could be partially the way that the design has been created, because the magnet itself is not square. It's got sort of like edges and stuff, similar to the actual picture. But because the picture is quite small compared to the longer edges, I was expecting it to be, a little bit different. But, I mean, it's still pretty cool. Would I buy another one at $15 for this? Probably not. The only time I would ever do that is if I was buying sort of like a sticker pack magnet, where there's like 4 or 5 different magnets within the same area, and that would be about $15. Then I would buy those, because that way you're actually getting sort of like 4 or 5 magnets, and I'm using the magnets as the quotation, as opposed to the others, as opposed to one big one. But overall, yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, as I said, I was expecting bigger things, considering how long it took as well. But then part of that was not the actual fault of Redbubble, that was more the fault of the postal service. So that's okay. At this stage, I am not waiting on anything else from Redbubble. I've just recently increased my repayments for my big loan that I was telling you guys about, and that's down to about $6,000, which I'm quite proud of and quite happy with. So I won't be buying anything this pay, but maybe next pay I will probably maybe buy another t-shirt. I've just created a whole new set of I think I've told you guys, kawaii pocket animals, and I'm planning on doing some other sort of things around that design, not necessarily animals, other things as well. And so, depending on what comes out of those, I might get my own sort of kawaii pocket thing, and keep that as a sort of a little mini brand, I suppose you could say, just for t-shirts primarily, because those actually look quite cool when they're up on models. So yeah, I've gotten a few favourites recently, and that's another thing I'll talk about. One thing that has been pretty cool is when I go to my dashboards, I have 14 followers now, and I follow them back usually. I still only sold 13 products, so I haven't had anything extra sell this month yet. I did have one thing that was really, really cool is one of my friends who is a bit of an influencer. I think I've shouted her out before, and she had a Plant Mama mug which I made for her. She did like a little random sort of mini video with the mug and shouted me out, which was quite cool. And then one of my other friends, who I actually designed 3 designs in sort of homage to her, she actually ordered one of them, which I was not expecting, because I told her I was actually going to send it to her. And happy birthday to her today, if she's listening, which I doubt she is, but if she is, happy birthday. But she grabbed one of the Lift Life t-shirts, and active shirts, and actually used it in her Instagram story as well, while she was at the gym doing her Lift Life. So that was very, very cool, to see someone wearing one of my products and then giving me a shout out as well. I had a bit of a moment, and got a bit really, really happy, because I was like, oh my god, someone's wearing my stuff. This is quite cool. And of course, as a creator and as well as a seller of these sorts of things, you don't usually see people wearing your things. You don't see people repping your stuff. So to see someone doing that in their daily life, pretty cool. Even if it is a friend, it's still cool for me to see it. But as for dashboards, I have received in the last sort of week, I have sort of done a little bit of favoriting of people's stuff as they've favorited mine, sort of a quid pro quo sort of thing. And I'm currently sitting at 136 favorites, whereas I was sitting at about 75. These are not including the favorites that I have received from my partner, and I favorited her as well. So yeah, I was sitting about 75, and I've definitely had about almost another 75 favorites on mine, which was very, very shocking, and really quite cool. Quite happy with that. And as I said, yeah, 14 followers, and I follow them back. I started increasing my follows on Instagram, so when people follow me, I follow them now. I didn't used to do that, and you know, if it increases my followers a little bit, you know, I'll you know, do it, because it's always something I can do. I've had a couple of people trying to get me to follow their Redbubble things, and I've had a look at them. Also had one guy try to contact me personally through Facebook without no mentioning before, like, hey, I'm contacting you because yada yada yada. And then I saw him in the Ryan Hogue's Facebook group, which, if you are not a member of and you're a print on demand seller and you know about Ryan and you listen to Ryan, you should really join his thing. It's really quite interesting. But this guy appeared and wanted people to review his store. I had a look at the store. I gave him feedback. Dude had a lot of copyright stuff, and you guys know that I don't like copyright stuff. So kind of glad I didn't accept him as a friend on Facebook, because yeah, I just know he would have been contacting me all the time, and me just going, hey, come on, bro, like, what are you doing? You haven't even taken those down. Like, he apparently changed all of his designs and goes, oh, I've taken them down, I've taken all the copyright things, because people were getting on him for all these other things that he was copywriting. And I was like, bro, you still got the Winx girls up, like, what the hell, you know, like, you said you took everything down. They're like literally ripped from Google. So yeah, I think a lot of people realized what he was doing, and he said he tried to put things up, and he hadn't really done tags, and he hadn't done a collection or anything like that. So he obviously is one of these people that hasn't really been looking at Ryan's videos, and you know, if you do want to learn this stuff, I do strongly suggest you check out Ryan Hogue, Shimmy Morris, the Money Game altogether, just as a starter, because those guys are really, really onto it. They've been doing it a lot longer than we have, and you know, they're successful, so that's got to be a good thing. Now on to plant versus keto. For all you healthy people out there, as I've told you all from the start of this year, I have said that I want to be, by the end of this year, 90% plant-based. And I thought, for those that followed me originally, I started talking about my weight loss journey with keto, and how it sort of fell off. And I, you know, when we went into the 6-week lockdown, I basically came completely off keto, just because it was too expensive for veggies at that time. We weren't able, you know, I wasn't growing any veggies or anything like that. Now I'm doing the plant-based one. So I thought I'd sort of discuss the differences between the plant-based versus keto, how it affects me, and how I'm sort of coping with it. As you all know, if you've been listening to me for a while, I am a big meat lover, and I love my meat. Therefore, keto sounds pretty awesome, because you get to eat meats. And I'm not going to lie, it was really, really cool to be able to eat meat. And I never really got sick of the breakfasts, because the breakfasts were usually eggs, sausages, cucumber, capsicum, and lettuce. Because the only issue with keto for me was some of the veggies that I don't eat a lot of veggies, but the veggies that I do eat, some of them were ones that I couldn't eat, because of course under keto you're trying to go to into a form of ketosis, which means no carbs, very little sugar, and of course one of my favorite meals was sort of potatoes and carrots. And of course carrots have a lot of sugar in them, potatoes are pure carb. So yeah, it was that sort of part was interesting. Now skip to plant-based, and me realizing that now I can eat some of the things that I couldn't eat, like bread and all that sort of thing. Which, if you've read my blog or you know me, you know that bread is one of those things that I absolutely adore, and I found it very, very hard to cope without it. Hence why my partner almost brought me to tears when she gave me a keto loaf, which was actually nice, and it didn't taste like cardboard, and it wasn't, $10 for a loaf. It wasn't tiny. It was genuinely like bread, and really, really tasty, that she baked herself. And so now that I'm on the plant-based, I'm allowed to have bread, which is really, really nice, because I do love, for breakfast, I do love a couple of bits of toast. We have switched to nut butter. We have switched to soy milk and coconut milk. That I thought was going to be a lot harder to do, because I honestly thought I love milk and soy milk. I spent a time before doing soy milk, and it didn't really agree well with me, but it was perfectly fine. I'm not going to lie, it was actually a lot easier than I thought. So on to the actual differences in meals. The keto stuff, after a while, it did get a bit repetitive, but it was to the point where it was repetitive where I didn't mind it. I didn't mind having steak. I didn't mind having fish. I didn't mind having chicken. I didn't mind having eggs. It did get a bit much having 4 eggs a day for breakfast and then possibly having 2 or more later. I'm not going to lie, because I don't eat avocado, which is a good fat, which is what, is pretty much keto love. People on keto love avocados because that is the good fat that you're putting in. And when you eat the fat is what sort of fills you up and keeps you going. Now, of course, with me, I had sort of changed my ways early on in life that when I'd have a steak, I wouldn't really eat the fat. I would sort of cut the fat off. And so for the first sort of month and a half of keto, I was cutting the fat off all the meats until someone said, hey, you're supposed to eat that fat. And I said, why? And they go, because the fat's what's going to keep you full, which was part of the reason why I was still quite hungry on keto and I didn't know it. So yeah, that was quite illuminating, and that did change things as soon as I did. So I learnt to start eating the fat more, but because I couldn't really eat it, I didn't really like it. I used to cook it for longer, just on the fat part, so the fat would become a bit crispier, so I'd be able to crunch it, because that way it felt better. Otherwise, the consistency and the sort of chewiness of the fat and the feeling of it really did not sit well with me. So yeah, the repetitiveness was okay for me. I'm usually pretty okay when it comes to some meals where it can be repetitive. It doesn't need to be different all the time. As long as it's, the same sort of thing, then I can eat it. Because I did that for years. On to plant-based. And as I've said, we are sort of moving our way to being more plant-based, 90% plant-based. So for me personally, it's been a lot harder than my partner. My partner is sort of naturally doing this a lot easier. And I have been having craving for meats and sweets and all that sort of stuff. And as the way of meats, I will admit I have had a bit of meat, more than I probably should have over the last sort of couple of weeks. That said, I still eat quite a lot more soy and tofu based foods, and yeah, it's been good. They both have been different ways of living. Like, for example, with the keto stuff, I found that I was losing weight quite quickly, and while that was good, it was actually quite hard to maintain, and I had some quite big scares from my diabetes. With the plant-based, it's been a little bit different. I find that I've got a lot more energy. I'm a lot more focused with things now. Now, I don't know, I'm not saying that plant-based has anything to do with my mental, abilities or anything like that, but for me, I just find that I am definitely more switched on, and fully awake usually. Today being an exception. I was very tired last night. Even though I slept, I still feel tired. And I mean, granted, it is 11 o'clock at night now in New Zealand time, but at the same time, I should be pretty much awake by now. So yeah, I mean, each has their own different. I have lost a little bit of weight with plant-based versus the keto. Like the keto, it was just coming off. Like I got down to about 117 kgs really, really quickly, and that was coming down from about 135. With the plant-based, it's pretty much still hovering about 126, 127. So I've lost about 3 to 4 kgs, but I am definitely increasing. Like I'm definitely eating a lot more veggies than I was before keto. Like when I was eating keto, I was eating veggies, but I think now I'm definitely eating a lot more veggies than I was, and I'm okay with it. Like it's not like I'm trying different foods so that I can actually keep going. Like if you'd told me last year at the same time that I'd be looking at plant-based, let alone keto, I would have laughed at you. I would have like, no fucking way. You know, it's like keto. The reason I started keto was basically I talked last week about the 5 love languages. That was around about the time that I first discovered the love languages, because me and my partner had we had a bit of a fight, and it was over my health. It was over me not really taking care of myself and not thinking about my future with her, let alone my future in general. So it's not her, and when I say that, I don't mean to say she was like, you know, you have to think of me and your future or anything like that. It was more like she was worried that I wouldn't have a future, because I was very sick in the way I was acting, you know, like I was invincible, that sort of stuff. So I said, look, I will try whatever you want me to try. At the time when my partner sort of made a meal plan for me, I did not know it was keto. It wasn't until someone was like talking to me, like, oh, you're doing keto. I was like, what? I don't know what that is. And they explained it, and I was like, oh, yeah, but I'm only eating these things. And she's like, yeah, that's keto. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm doing keto. And yeah, that was a bit of an experience. And yeah, it was nice. I mean, I was walking a lot more as well, going a lot more. I mean, I was living in a different place, and I was also having to find different ways to get to work and stuff. So that kind of helped with the exercise and stuff like that. But now I will admit my exercise has gone down quite a bit. That said, my weight has pretty much stayed the same. I haven't really lost much, but I haven't really put on either. Cravings are still there for sugar and all that sort of thing. And I'm trying to sort of substitute those with apples and all that sort of thing, so that I've got something there to keep me going. My partner just bought me some chocolate, and it's the 90% chocolate, which one bite of that and I'm like, oh god, I don't really want chocolate right now. And I asked for that because I know how I get, and the way I get is very much like I will crave, and then I will go off and I will sneak chocolate, and it will be not a little bit, it will be lots, and it will be the worst kind of chocolate. It'll be like, you know, triple chocolate magnum ice cream, or, you know, double chocolate mellow puffs, you know, chocolate upon chocolate upon chocolate. That's the sort of thing I would go for. And so when I have this, and for those that are trying to lose weight, I do strongly suggest, if you do have that craving of chocolate, buy yourself a block of the 90% or the 99%, if you can, cacao, chocolate and you will not want any more. It is so bitter. Unless you really like bitter. If you really like bitter chocolate, well, you're up a creek without a paddle. Because it is so bitter, it doesn't give you that sweet sugar hit that you really, really want. But at the same time, it is chocolate, so your mind is going, oh, I'm having chocolate. But you have one square and you're like, okay, I'm good. I don't need chocolate at the moment. I'll have chocolate another time, a couple of weeks. So yeah, it's been very good. Overall, the foods have been different for me to eat. Not different in a bad way, just literally different. I've opened up my sort of palate quite a bit, and thinking about different types of foods that I can eat. My partner has done some amazing cooking as well. Just even with things like, so I like the hot dogs, the tofu hot dogs. I quite like the tofu sausages, because I love sausages. Like that, it's just something that is part of me. And yesterday, my partner cooked some of the tofu sausages, but rather than having them in bread and butter and tomato sauce and all that sort of stuff, which I usually love, she goes, right, I'm cutting them up. And I was like, oh, okay. And so she cut them up and put them in some fried rice that she'd made. And then the day before, she'd done the same thing, but with noodles. And so, it's a recipe that's simple, it's easy, it's quick, and tastes really, really nice. If you are new to tofu sausages, maybe you don't usually eat or don't want to try that sort of thing, try it like cook some up, cut them up, little baby circles, and throw them in like a stir fry, or throw them in a pasta with noodles. Just stir fry them up, and then when you eat them, after you cook them first, just letting you know, you still need to cook them, and then you cut them up, add them to what you're cooking as well. And it's really, really nice, because it gives you that sort of consistency of a sausage, and it's a little piece, so you don't really taste the tofu thing if you don't like the taste of tofu. I got to admit, for me, I didn't like tofu to start off with, but now I can eat it. I quite enjoy it, and it's quite a nice substitute for things like, steak and all things. Because before, when I would do a stir fry, it would be steak, a lot of steak, and maybe 2 handfuls of veggies. So you're guaranteed to get at least 3 or 4 bits of steak, or stir fry steak. Sorry, the long bits, with every bite. So yeah, this has been an interesting way of eating some of the different foods, and my partner has been absolutely amazing cooking and educating me, and now she's actually growing her own veggies, so that's just thrown in a whole new wrench of deliciousness, because we're eating food that she's growing herself, so it's literally freshly picked within the hour that we cook it. Now, I'm not a big green thumb. I'm not a big, plant person, even though I do like plants, and I create designs with plants in mind, because I think they're, some of them are quite cool. I got about 5. I can't say I'm not a plant. I've got 6 plants in my room at the moment, but I'm not the green thumb. I'm not the person that knows exactly how everything grows the way it should grow. But my partner has just taken that, and we now have a little plot of land within where we currently rent, that is like her vegetable garden, and it has flourished. We've got kale, we've got cucumber, we've got lettuce. It's amazing, and it's amazing how good tasting, fresh, organic. We're not adding any chemicals. It's all done the way it's supposed to. And when it's washed and then it's cooked or served, silver beet. I hate silver beet. I hate it with a passionate vengeance. But when it's cooked up and it's fresh, I can't even tell. Spinach as well. Another one. Yes, I used to love Popeye as a cartoon character, but every time you put spinach on me, that taste, you get that taste. You hate that taste, but when it's freshly cooked, freshly grown, literally from a few feet from where we stand and where we cook, is the veggies. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. I strongly suggest that if you don't already, you need to do that. Start learning to grow. If you want to start doing the plant-based life, it makes such a difference. Such a difference to taste your own food, knowing that you're cooking it yourself. I mean, and I'm not going all vegan, like, I don't want to hurt the feelings of the plants, which is what we all think veganism is. Or at least I did. Then, yeah, it's definitely put more of an emphasis on this plant-based life could be quite cool, and quite not only sustainable, because of course it's sustainable if you do everything right and you plan it out. Now, if you're even just remotely a green thumb, a green fingered person, then you will love this life, just for the point of cooking. And for me, eating, it's really amazing. Like, we gave some of the fresh lettuce to my mother, who's also trying to do the plant-based, and she was shocked. She was like, "Oh yeah, I tried it. It was really nice. It was crispy and crunchy and fresh." I said, "Yeah, that came from the backyard." And she was like, "What?" And it was such a shock, because the things have grown so quickly, and we're not using, there's no GMO, there's no nothing that's enhancing the growth. It's literally the soil and the way that my partner has grown things and cared for them. Like, they're like her babies. It's really truly amazing. And because being the fact that she is Asian as well, there are so many more recipes which incorporate everything in a different way that we're not used to in sort of the European sort of life, or in my case in the New Zealand life. Like, it's really, really surprising and absolutely delicious. We don't have to add anything. Like, you don't have to add any sauces, you don't need dressings, you don't need anything like that. There's just the crunch and the crisp taste of everything is what makes me think that it's not hard to achieve my goal of 90, potentially even more, maybe 99% plant-based by the end. I don't know. This is definitely heading on the right way. And the fact that, we can look at growing things like carrots and radishes and all that sort of stuff as well, like all those sorts of veggies I can now eat. It's truly amazing. So, do I recommend them? Both. Yes. However, you've got to go in with the knowledge. For example, keto. A lot of people are like, "Oh, keto's amazing. Keto does this, keto does this, keto does this." And yes, it does do those things. And if you can do it properly, it does do those things. But a lot of people don't mention the keto flu, which is where while your body is going into ketosis, you feel run down, all of your body aches, you are going to the toilet pretty much, all the time, and it's not pretty. Your body is basically getting rid of all of the toxins and stuff that you're stopping from putting in, and now you're putting in all these other things. Is keto long term? No. I'll be honest. I think it can be semi-long term, 6 months to a year. For those that can do it longer than that, you know what, full credit to you. But as someone like me who already has like pre-existing conditions like diabetes and, you know, cholesterol and all that sort of things, I honestly think that if I was to still be continuing to do keto, while yes, I would have lost some weight and that would have helped overall my health, I do think I would still have some health problems because of the keto. And because of what I previously had, liver issues and kidney issues and all that sort of stuff. And that's you know what, that's on me. That's not on anybody else. It is definitely one of those things where if you are going to go on keto and you are diabetic, do your research. Do be aware that you should be doing your bloods literally every couple of hours when you first start keto, because your body will change so much. Your blood sugars will go crazy. You know, if you're already living a semi-keto life before you switch to full keto, then you know what, you'll be fine. But if you were like me and you were eating, you know, all sorts of bad shit, and then you try to go keto pretty much overnight, yeah, it can be pretty daunting, pretty shocking, and also pretty dangerous. So make sure you are, you know, checking with your doctors and all that sort of stuff as well if you are diabetic, and you do want to go down the keto route. Same deal with the plant-based, I'll be honest. The plant-based, while it is, you know, obviously a lot healthier than keto because, you know, you're not eating all the meats and all that sort of stuff and all the fats and all that sort of thing. The one thing you do have to be mindful of is the same with diabetes and all that sort of things, is if you're not careful, you will run low, which is fine for those that want to get to a lower blood sugar. But you do have to be mindful that you can't just grab the jelly beans. You know, you've got to manage them and go, right, actually I got to grab an apple, or I got to grab a banana, because most of those jelly beans, they will just set you off, and then you go from a hypo to a hyper, which is not what you want. I would recommend both though. Like keto, as I said, I still love the meats, and part of that is the keto. Like I actually got to appreciate meat more. Like, you know, I learned how to cook better meats because of the way that I was, you know, doing keto. Now the question is, would I do keto now that I've got the plant-based stuff here as well, or would I do a mix of both? Honestly, I still want to try more of the plant-based. I want to know, you know, I want to get more closer to being even 90%, 80% plant-based. At the moment, I'm probably sitting at about 65% plant-based. Being realistic with myself and my listeners. I've, as I said, had some extra meats and stuff that I probably shouldn't have for the last couple of weeks. But at the same time, even though it's been almost 2 months on this diet, it's been almost 2 months since on this lifestyle, it has definitely not been as hard as it was on the keto. My body adjusted a lot easier to it, and that's not because, you know, of anything like doing keto up until changing to plant-based. I'd stopped keto for probably a good 4 or 5 months. I was back to my normal habits. So that's not even, you know, my body had pretty much reverted back to what it was. So I'm not going to go there and be like, oh, well, because of this, my body was ready for it. No, it was not. It was not ready for plant-based. It was not ready for keto. The one thing, as I said with the keto flu, you went to the toilet a bit. I'm not going to lie, with the plant-based, you do still go quite a bit. What you will be surprised is how much energy you have, and also how full you feel. Like, it sounds weird, but I can feel fuller now on some of the plant-based meals that I have and last, until my 3 meals. And you do still need to eat 3 meals a day. You probably need to eat a little bit more as well, because you're not eating the protein that you eat from meats, you're eating the protein from plants. It's easily absorbed and it burns fast. So have some apples on hand, have some bananas on hand, have some blueberries, anything like that. Something that keeps your body moving, keeps your body consistently. And I'm not saying consistently full, but you do want to at least be fuller, so that you can maintain the time that you need to between each meal. And I eat usually 3 meals a day. I do get hungry, I'm not going to lie, and I have started taking more fruits to work so that I can snack on them. And usually I do snack on them. Like for me, breakfast is usually a couple of bits of toast, and then I will take like 2 apples with me to work, and usually finish those before I even hit dinner, before I even hit lunchtime. That said, having certain cereals with soy milk, coffees with soy milk, I am quite used to the flavour of soy milk now. When I first started it, I'm not going to lie, I didn't like soy milk, the taste. Now I'm fine with it. In fact, it tastes a little bit weird if I have normal milk. And if I have real milk, like homogenized milk, oh God, it just tastes weird. And I feel sick to my stomach. It's just, I don't know why. It's just, my taste buds have changed quite a bit because of it. But yeah, I do suggest, if you are going to, especially if you've had health problems like I have, consult with your doctor first. Don't be silly. Like, talk to them. Go, hey, look, I'm thinking about going on keto, or hey, look, I'm thinking about going on plant-based. What can you do? What can I do to support myself during this time? And they may know, because you don't want to be asking Dr. Google, trust me. I mean, yes, there are resources that you can look at and listen to, and, also watch and read. But at the end of the day, the doctors are usually the people that are, they've paid to become a doctor. They have taken the time to do what they do and research what they need to. They do have, granted, apparently they don't have the best knowledge of nutrition in that respect, but they can at least give you an idea of, hey, look, this would be good for you, or this would be bad for you, based on your blood tests. And I do suggest you do get your blood test. Do a full checkup before. So get all your blood tests, make sure you test everything, check in, see with your doctor first. Even if you don't want to talk to them about the keto thing, get the blood tests and stuff done. Use it as a gauge. Use it as a starting point. Like, this is where I was. Okay, and then if you start to do it, research. Not just recipes. I'm talking actual research. I'm lucky that my partner basically did so much of the research for us with keto, and she basically could tell me straight away, look, no use using that excuse, because this happens with your body, and this, and oh, okay, cool. So not only did it put my mind at ease, it shut me up, and it made me go, okay, yeah, cool, let's do it properly. Same with the plant-based stuff. Like, with the plant-based stuff, I was the one that sort of introduced it to my partner, and I said, look, watch the Game Changers, it's really cool. She then introduced me to What the Health. Both of those are on Netflix. And with What the Health, after watching it 2 times in 2 hours, once with my partner and then once with mum, I pretty much went, okay, yeah, let's give it a go. Because if all the stuff that I'm watching is true, even if it's only half right, then it's worth a shot. And granted, they do touch on things and they don't touch on other things. I'm not going to get into that sort of argument. I just know, for me personally, after watching both of those documentaries, I thought, why not try? They make a lot of points. And within the first month, I definitely noticed a change in myself of plant-based. And with keto, I definitely noticed a change within the first couple of days, not because of losing weight, but because I was having massive problems with my blood sugars. Part of that was self-induced, and I've talked about that before in another episode, so you can go back and listen to that story. But yeah, overall, I do think this is a better change for myself. If you're going through something like this yourself, or if you're even contemplating or thinking about it, hit me up. Let me know what's worked for you, what hasn't worked. If you're thinking about doing it, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I can address them in the next show or contact you back separately. I am not an expert in these things, okay? But I can tell you from my own personal experience what I felt, what I did, what scared me, what didn't scare me, and also, my personal hang-ups, like what do I think is bad about it, what is good about it, if you want to know those things as well. Wow, look at the time. It has been a long episode. Thank you for listening to my rambling, and thank you for listening to the podcast. I, again, really appreciate you. If you've made it this far, again, thank you. And I will see you guys next week. So until next week, I love you guys, as always. Thank you, and good luck.